At first, Hapunan seemed like nothing more than another obscure indie horror game, one of those weird titles that surface on the dark web, promising an unsettling experience for thrill-seeking gamers. There was no developer information, no official website, and no digital storefront listing. It simply appeared one day, buried in the depths of gaming forums, shared as a torrent file with a single warning: once you start, you must finish. There were no trailers, no gameplay footage, just a handful of cryptic posts from anonymous users. Some claimed it was a lost game from a Filipino developer who had vanished years ago. Others whispered that Hapunan wasn't a game at all, but a ritual disguised as one. The game's name, which translates to dinner in Filipino, felt oddly unthreatening. Even its initial premise sounded simple: prepare a meal for the unseen guests before midnight. But those who dared to play quickly realized something was very, very wrong. Players reported strange occurrences the moment they launched the game. Whispers in the loading screen, distorted faces flickering in the game's reflection mechanics, and most disturbingly, the game calling them by name, even if they had never entered it. Some thought it was just clever programming, using their system's profile name. But soon, it started saying things about their past, things they had never typed anywhere. At first, people laughed it off as an elaborate ARG or a prank game meant to scare streamers. That is, until the disappearances began. Twitch streamers who played Hapunan started vanishing. YouTube videos documenting the game were mysteriously deleted, not by the creators, but as if something didn't want them to exist. And those who completed the game, nobody ever heard from them again. But what truly made Hapunan terrifying wasn't just the disappearances or the rumors. It was the final unconfirmed claim from one of the last players who streamed it before their sudden radio silence. The last guest is watching you. The first known footage of Hapunan appeared on a small gaming forum, posted by a now deactivated account. It showed the game's unsettling main menu, a dimly lit dining table with 6 empty chairs, a single flickering candle in the center, and a text prompt: serve the guests before midnight. There were no options to customize settings, no difficulty levels, just a start game button. The game loaded into a first-person perspective inside a decrepit, candlelit dining room. The player was given a simple objective: prepare and serve a meal for the unseen guests. A clock on the wall ticked down from 11:30 p.m., and an eerie, almost hypnotic humming sound played in the background. At first, everything seemed normal. Players could move around, pick up plates, pour soup, and arrange silverware. The kitchen was functional but disturbingly outdated, like something from an old Filipino ancestral house. The only odd thing: there was a mirror in the dining room, but the player had no reflection. Then came the whispers. At exactly 11:40 p.m., the game began calling the player's name. Some believed it was pulling the system's username, but others, especially those using fake accounts, heard their real names spoken softly through their headphones. If the player hesitated or moved too slowly, the whispers grew urgent. Plates started shifting on their own. The lights flickered, the mirror darkened, and at exactly 11:45 p.m., the game displayed its first warning. You are being watched. As the player continued serving, shadows flickered at the edges of the screen. The chairs at the table creaked, as if something invisible had just sat down. If the player dared to look away, the game forcefully turned their view back toward the table. By 11:50 p.m., things escalated. Players reported seeing their own faces flash in the mirror, but altered. Eyes hollowed out, mouths twisted in silent screams. Some claimed they could hear breathing behind them, despite being alone. Others swore the game whispered secrets they had never told anyone. The final task before midnight was to serve the head of the table, the only chair that had remained empty. As the player placed the final dish, the screen went black, and a final message appeared. You have been chosen. The game closed itself, but for some, it never truly ended. At first, people dismissed Hapunan as an elaborate horror ARG, something designed to mess with players' heads. But then, the disappearances started. The first to go missing was Ethan Crowley, a mid-tier horror YouTuber who uploaded a video titled WTF Did I Just Play? Hapunan Horror Game First Playthrough. The footage showed him playing, getting increasingly unnerved, and abruptly ending the stream after whispering, "I think it said my name." The video was deleted the next morning. His channel, wiped. His social media, inactive. His friends and family claimed they hadn't seen or heard from him since that night. Then it happened again. A Twitch streamer known as RazorWolf47 played the game live. Near the end, he suddenly froze, staring off screen with wide eyes. His breathing became erratic, and right before the stream cut out, he muttered, "There's someone in my room." He was never seen again. Panic spread through online horror communities. Posts about Hapunan vanished within hours. Forums discussing the game were shut down. No matter how deep people searched, they couldn't find the game's original file anymore. It was as if it had erased itself. That's when investigative journalist Mara Vasquez decided to dig deeper. Mara had been covering internet urban legends for years, but Hapunan was different. The game wasn't just scaring people, it was making them disappear. She began searching for its origins, tracing whispers of a Filipino folktale about a cursed dinner ritual. According to legend, certain families in the 1800s practiced a tradition where they would set a table for spirits in exchange for prosperity. If the ritual wasn't completed correctly, the spirits would take a living guest instead. She interviewed a Filipino historian who claimed Hapunan mirrored the ritual's exact steps. The 6 guests represented spirits. The final seat for the true host, the one who chose you. But Mara's investigation took a terrifying turn when she located a surviving player. This anonymous individual claimed that after quitting the game early, they began waking up to find their dinner table set for 6 every night. Mirrors in their home reflected someone else's movements, and worst of all, a chair at their table would pull itself out at exactly 11:45 p.m. The final warning they gave Mara before cutting off contact: never finish the game. After Mara's findings were published, she disappeared too. Her article was deleted from the internet within 24 hours, and any attempt to archive it failed. Today, Hapunan is nearly impossible to find. The few people who claim to have played it refuse to speak about it. Some say they've seen the game resurface under different names, hidden in obscure corners of the dark web. But there's one chilling thought that lingers, one last piece of the puzzle that remains unanswered. If Hapunan was just a game, why does it still